That's the problem with these heads. You can pick the heads up cheap, but you cannot get any valves that come out the right length cheap. I got the cylinder head all cleaned up, ready to start installing parts. But one thing I did forget to mention too, when I was talking about the mods I did to the head, I slightly relieved the chamber there, which should help the exhaust flow. I mean, you watch David Vizard's videos, he really comes out here and goes across there. But I don't have a flow bench, so I didn't want to go crazy there. I just kind of relieved it a little bit. Which should help a little, but who knows. Like I say, I don't have a flow bench. But you can see where I lightly polished the chambers there. Maybe you can see the twisting of the chambers like I was talking about. Which there you can see that the chambers kind of, that one goes that way. On the ends here, they were backwards. You can still kind of see it goes that way a little bit, but like I say, I went down in there. On the side, down in there, I'll grab a screwdriver. Down in there. I went down in there, that way it makes it swirl. You want that to swirl out that way. You want the intake to come in this way. Exhaust to go out like that. So basically you're porting more over in here on the exhaust, and you want to port more over there on the intakes, which is what I did. Anyways, I'll get all this cleaned up and probably show you when I get done. Maybe I ought to show you here what I was talking about too. Spring seats, which go down in there. The spring seat here goes down in there. Now, I, like an idiot, put the seals on first, and then these won't fit over the top of the seal. Here's the seal, which fits on top of the guide, of course. They are kind of a pain in the butt to get on, and pretty much you ruin them getting them off. When I ordered these, they weren't really the style that I wanted. I did want this style, but a lot of them have rubber on the inside. This one is just steel. And when they're on there, they're on there. At least the rubber ones, you can get them back off. Anyways, I installed those on there and tried to put this over the top of it. It don't work. Obviously that is bigger than that hole. That made me feel like a dumbass. But I got it figured out and fixed on the other head. I need to finish cleaning up everything here. Clean the valves, clean these, the spring seats. There's the locks. There's the retainers. And I'll have to go grab the valve springs. Got 4 valves in, got the spring seat spacers. I got the seals on these, but I wanted to show you something or say something here. These are the seals. I take those little springs off before I install them, and then stick these back on afterwards. And one thing you have to do, which saves the seals, this little plastic thingy that goes over the valve stem, and it keeps the lock groove there from messing up the seal. And you just slide them down over the top and twist that, and that comes right off, and then you go to the next one and do the same thing. Now, when I installed these, I said they were a pain in the ass because of the way they're made. I have a plastic, it's like a little plastic tube you stick over the top of it and you tap down with a hammer. And it's the right diameter for these, but these go on hard, and I mean hard. You gotta hit them pretty good. But I found out that this right here, which is a shifter fork out of a Ford transmission, has the right sized hole in it. And you just set that little baby down on there. It goes over the rubber part, but you don't want to beat on the rubber part. I'm going to hit on the upper steel there. That goes right down over it, and you tap her down with a hammer. Works real good. Another thing I wanted to show you is that I back cut the intake valves. You can see the dark stripe there is where I lapped the valves in, and then right above that is a 30-degree back cut, which is about approximately 50 thousandths wide. Did not do anything to the exhaust. These are Manley valves, severe duty valves for the exhaust, and these are competition products. Or excuse me, these are Howard's severe duty intake valves that I picked up a while back. Same valve, intake valves I used in the procomp heads on my S10. Different exhaust valve. Now these heads call for 0.1 longer valves. If you buy an intake and an exhaust that are 0.1 longer, they do not come out at the right stem height. They will be up, down, up, down. Actually, the intake stuck out further than the exhaust did. The intakes measure 5.010, which is considered a 0.1 long valve. By some valve manufacturers, you got to watch out because some valve manufacturers do not consider a 0.1 that length. These Manleys are the only valve that I found that was the correct length. These are 5.036 long. And they come out the perfect height. They're even across. And I'm getting close to installing the springs. This is what I'm installing as an Elgin spring, and what's good about them is read that right there, made in the USA. I've run a lot of these Elgin springs and they're good springs. I've never ever broke one. Better knock on some wood, I'll probably break one in here, but anybody's heads that work on, I always use Elgin springs. But I used to run a lot of Elgin valves. And a while back I bought some and they were made in China, and I'm not running any valves made in China. Although there's pretty much no valves made in the USA. They were made in Argentina. A lot of them, I don't know if that place is even still in business. Especially after all this COVID stuff's going on. Possibly India. I've heard some valves are made in Israel, I don't know. It's hard to say. But these are Manleys, or wherever they're made. Severe duty valves should be a good valve. Never had a problem with Howard's valves. Severe duty intake valve. That's the problem with these heads. You can pick the heads up cheap, but you cannot get any valves that come out the right length cheap. But I'd rather have high quality valves in my head than some junk crap that's going to bust or whatever might happen to them. I've seen a lot of those cheapy valves after they run a while. You'll have a groove so deep in the valve it's not even funny. Like they're soft or something. Anyways, I'm probably rambling. Need to get back to putting this together. I'll show you when I'm done. The cylinder head's finished. It's all together. You know, springs, containers, locks, seals, all that stuff's on. You can see the valves. 202 on the 60s. Manley severe duty exhaust. Howard's severe duty intakes. And I'll show you here. I'll show you here the valve stem heights. They're actually even. I get to sit on there without screwing stuff up. They're even all the way across. Like I say, a 5.010 intake valve and a 5.036 exhaust valve. The only valves I found that was even across. Although there might be some other combination, but that is the difference in the length of the intake and exhaust. It'd be what, 5010 to 5036, so that's what, 20, 30, about 15, 16 thousandths difference in the length of your intake and exhaust valve. Here's the valves that I use. These are Manley's 11539-8 severe duty 160 HD +1 11/32 stem. I wrote the length on there. It's 5.036 overall length. This is not the box. This lower box. It's not the box the Howard's valves came in. I bought them in bulk, so they didn't actually come in the box. This is another set of valves I had for some different heads, but they're competition products, Howard's valves. They're race valves. I think they were severe duty also. I don't know what the part number was, but they're 5.0 and 0. They're 202s plus 0.1. Like I say, you run into a problem. Different valve manufacturers call their 0.1 long valves different lengths, but that's what I end up using. The 5.010 intake, 5.036 exhaust. All the valve stem heights are the same. Also on the valve springs, you're supposed to have 1.75 installed height to hold the 550 lift. I have a 1.76 installed height, and my cam has 560 lift on exhaust, so that's perfect. Also, in the future, I had plans to change the camshaft in the engine to a solid flat tappet cam. I have a Lunati Voodoo solid flat tappet cam, which is real similar to the specs on the hydraulic cam that's in it. But I am going to run the dual springs, which are the same springs in the procomp heads, which I might just transfer over to these heads whenever I get around to doing it. But they have the installed height of 185, and that's perfect for a solid flat tap cam with the specs is on the other springs, which there are a 99893 crane dual wound spring. Hopefully doing all this makes a difference, but we're going to find out. Or eBay heads, or Renegade heads, or Amazon heads, even AFR sells these. Same casting. There's another guy on here that showed that they had the 8mm diameter valve stems, which I thought about buying a pair, but I never did. Maybe it's just cheaper to end up buying them straight from them in the long run by the time you buy these valves, which these exhaust valves were 200, and I gave $225 for them. No, I didn't get that much for the intakes. Actually, I think this box has them in it. Hey, hold on a second. There's the receipt for the Howard's valves. Howard's Extreme Modification Valve, small block 202. Intake +1. $8 a valve, 128. I bought 16 of them. Like I say, these are the same intake valves that are in the procomp heads. So those were a lot better deal. 8 times 8 would be what, $64? They had $64 in the intakes and 200, and I want to say $25 in the exhaust. Hopefully, doing all this work is going to make a difference. Something is holding the engine back in it, and I believe it's the heads. It could possibly be the camshaft too. It does have a pretty what you call good sized hydraulic flat tap in it. Probably the largest hydraulic flat tappet cam that you can get. So I was kind of building this motor more of a nitrous pig, which that cam would work good. And the nitrous engine because it has a 114 lobe center, which doesn't always work the best naturally aspirated. We're going to put these heads on, see what it runs, then we're going to nitrous it. And it'll probably be next year, next race season, before I swap cams, because we only have 3 or 4 races left this year. Hopefully I can get this going and make it to the races, and hopefully nothing stupid goes wrong, but you know how that is. Well, I screwed up when I was installing all the parts in the head. You look down in here, got this light here, maybe you can see a little better. It'd help us in the right spot, but the spring seat is round down in there, which kind of hangs off like that side did. But that doesn't bother the bolt hole, or the bolt head I should say, but that center one does, right there. So I had to take all this back off and grind the edge of those the same as that, so you can get a socket down in there. And of course I ruined 4 more seals in the process. I had to do it to both heads. Luckily I bought plenty of seals. I only got 4 left. I should have had 16 of them. That's my screw up. I should have known better. I had that in my head that I needed to do that, but I was kind of in a hurry when I was putting all this back together, and it cost me some more time and 4 more seals. It'll be alright. Heads are finished. Next thing you need to do is pull the s10 in here and get it going on, get these heads swapped. But we have a gremlin sitting on the lift, and this is going to have to go.